Hello, my name is Gator, and in this video I'll be going over the controller class added in Season 16 and be giving you my opinions on it and the legends within it, based on my own personal experience using them and fighting against them. Every class has its own class passive, and I believe every class should have at least two class passives, just like Assault and Support, but the controller class only has one. Its class passive is access to ring consoles. You gain access to the ring consoles spread throughout the various maps, and it will show you where the next ring will be. This can be great for setting up ambushes at various choke points because you know where enemies will be funneled later. First up, our first legend is Caustic. His passive is Nox Vision. You gain threat vision on enemies moving through your gas. This is a great passive for him because his entire kit is just gas. His tactical is gas and his ultimate is gas. The threat vision allows you to see people highlighted in your gas when you have direct line of sight of them. His first tactical is Nox Gas Trap. He throws down this canister. He can throw down up to 6. He can throw down, or he can hold 3 on him at a time, and then they recharge over a certain amount of time. These Nox traps are very useful. They can be used to block doorways or to hide around corners, and they spew out gas at a deceptively far range, and when someone enters that gas, it does 5 damage a tick, and they receives just health damage, no shield damage, jumps straight to health, and they are greatly slowed and their vision is impaired while moving through it. These canisters can, however, be shot at the bottom to destroy them, or after they've been activated, they can take a certain amount of damage before being destroyed, reducing the amount of time they can actually spew out gas if someone wants to waste, ammo or grenades destroying them to shorten the length of how much time they'll actually spew gas. They are a great tactical just for setting up a perimeter, especially in close range or setting around corners where you know enemies are going to have to push. You can also use them very aggressively, throwing them on either side of cover that an enemy may be behind at very close range. If the enemy allows them to actually get time to deploy fully, they can be great. If they do allow them to get time to deploy fully, you can actually prematurely detonate them by damaging them. So if they reach far enough, they can even begin damaging or even just discourage the enemy from peeking that corner. It is very versatile in what you can do with them. You can use them for physical cover themselves. After you detonate them, they can't be destroyed by just shooting the bottom. You actually have to do a good amount of damage to them to destroy them, so you can use them as a sort of cover. You can use them to block lines of sight after they've been detonated. When they're spewing gas, they are used to block doorways. They are great just to use. You can use them in choke points or in areas you think enemies may push from and then retreat to. You can even use them to just catch enemies by surprise and give you an early detection, because you are notified when one goes off, and you can actually see through walls which one is going off, and you can also see it on your mini-map if you're close enough to it, which one on the mini-map is highlighted, telling you which one is going off, so they can be a great early detection device. His ultimate, which is Nox Gas Grenade. You blanket a large area in Nox Gas. Now, this grenade is thrown a similar distance to how you throw regular grenades, and when it detonates, the gas spreads out, not immediately, a little bit over time, but it will cover a good area for a good few seconds, and will do 8 damage a tick to straight health, and will greatly slow down enemies where they cannot run through it unless they have movement abilities allowing them to move through it, and you will be able to see them highlighted when you have direct eye contact with them, so you can see them when they can't see you. It's a great ability for especially closing out a building, or if people are hiding in a building, or it's a great ability to use to prevent people from pushing a building. You can also use it if people are pushing your building and they're funneled into maybe a hallway or right outside. You can use it to throw right outside and then prevent them from wanting to be in that area any longer. It's a great area denial, and it's also great for pushing and controlling, and it's a great ability. I wouldn't change really anything with it. Next, we have Wattson. Wattson's passive, which is Spark of Genius. Ultimate Accelerator is fully charged Wattson's ultimate, and she can carry more ultimate accelerators. Watson also slowly restores her shields over time. I do genuinely wish that her shield restore over time would be a little bit faster, similar to maybe, not maybe as much as Octane, but just a little bit faster because it does recharge very slowly. It's nice if you're outside of battle and you need it, you can let it just charge up without any use of the shield cell, but it takes a really long time to charge, especially when you're in battle and it's just delayed on its recharge rate from you taking damage. It's a good overtime passive, but not phenomenal. Being able to carry more ultimate accelerators is always nice, especially if you have a lifeline in your group, and it guaranteeing, putting yours back to 100% is also nice, especially if you throw one out to recharge your shields and destroy incoming, grenades or ordnance. And you need it to be put out again if it's already been used up for the shield or if it's been destroyed. That's a great passive, but I do wish the Watson Shield Restorer was just slightly faster. Her tactical, which is perimeter security. She creates electrified fences by connecting these nodes you place on the ground, which damage and slow enemies. The damage is 20 damage, and it is a significant slow to not only your movement speed, but also your turning. And I think it is a phenomenal ability. These little nodes can be placed in very tricky spots where it's impossible to actually hit them, but in other situations they're out in the open, which her tactical can be used in a firefight, especially in close range, because you can put these nodes deceptively far from you, allowing you to essentially put it somewhere where the enemy can either avoid it or take the time to turn, aim, shoot it, giving you time to get extra shots on them, and every little bit counts, especially in close range fights like this. She can also be paired very well with her tactical ability with other close range operators like other controllers, or even Newcastle's ultimate. Putting her nodes behind his ultimate would make a lot of sense as well. She could also be used very well with a Catalyst ultimate, though I see very few people ever do this. Catalyst puts up her ultimate and she can put up fences across one side of it, and if people are daring enough to actually push it, not only are they suffering from the slow and blind from Catalyst, but they're also getting hit with 20 damage and being slowed further with Watson, which I think is another great way to use her with synergy aggressively with other operators. She can put down, I believe, up to 10 of these nodes, which if she puts them up and only connects them to 2 nodes each, can cut off 5 different areas of entry, which is a great ability just for entry denial, and she can connect them all in one large chain to each other. So you could have an entire room just crisscross with wires. Though I will add, whenever you or an ally move through them, the gates will shut off for a second, allowing you to move through them, and enemies can utilize this very small moment to push you, especially if you're one enemy or ally is standing within it, to push you through it, because they won't take any damage when the fences are actually off, and that happens whenever you or an ally steps between the fence nodes. But other than that, it's a very solid ability and is as good as you are creative, or as good as whatever the terrain allows it to be, especially for buildings. Because some building doorways, you can put it and there's zero way for them to actually destroy the nodes unless they throw a grenade or an explosive in there. And other times you have no real choice but to just put the node right there at the door where it can be easily shot and just from any angle. But other than that, it is a great ability. It has great versatility, and its area denial is one of the best, in my personal opinion. It also notifies you when any enemy touches it or damages it. It tells you, hey, this is who did it, and points it out to you and your team, which is just another layer of awesomeness to put on it. Her ultimate is Interception Pylon. You place an electrified pylon that destroys incoming ordnance and repairs your and your team's shields. It will also repair enemy shields, so make sure you know that. Don't put it too close to walls or windows, because they can stand outside and still receive benefits from your thing, and it only has a certain amount that it can restore before it runs out. So make sure you're not restoring enemy shields by accident. While standing near the pylons, it does actually boost Watson's tactical, allowing it to recharge considerably faster, allowing her to put out all 10 nodes very quickly. It only has a max of 1 that you can place out, but comparing it to her passive, which is Spark of Genius, allowing her to carry 2 ultimate accelerators in place of 1 slot, and it guaranteeing that you get a full ultimate recharge out of using 1 ultimate accelerator, you can easily put down another one very quickly if you have an ultimate accelerator stacked up in your inventory. Overall, I think it's a great ability, though granted, I do wish it wouldn't recharge enemy shields. Same thing with Lifeline's drone. I wish it wouldn't help the enemy. I wish it would maybe have a slow effect on them, or maybe even do damage or repel them, like it, destroys grenades and other ordnance. But other than that, it's a very solid ability. I really do wish it wouldn't help the enemy. I don't like it whenever abilities that having an ability that's high risk, high reward is fine, but having an ability that can just help you as much as it can hinder you does kind of suck, because it also destroys your grenades you throw. So you can't throw anything, but they also can't throw anything. You get healed, they get healed. I do wish that was tweaked a little bit to make it more, one-sided. Like, for example, you don't get shocked by your fences, your teammates don't get shocked by them, but the enemies do. Why would you make her ultimates, help them as much as it helps you? That's one of the things I would love to change if possible. Next is Rampart. Rampart's passive is a modded loader. You have increased magazine capacity and faster reloads with LMGs and your own minigun. This is great if you love LMGs. Like, the reload speed of having a 1-up stock is great, and it stacks with the other stocks that increase reload speed, and it also stacks with magazines that increase magazine capacity, and it is great if you like LMGs. If you don't like LMGs, it's probably not for you, but every little bit helps, especially whenever you are hot dropping and you need every advantage in your favor. Being able to reload faster and have more bullets is always a great thing. Her tactical is Amped Cover. You build a crouch cover, it's only waist high, which deploys a fully covered amp wall after a certain amount of time, which blocks incoming shots, but it amps outgoing shots, and it amps them by 20%, I believe. The bottom shield can take considerably more damage than the top shield. The top shield takes way less damage, and it does actually deploy over time. It's not instantly, boom, you plopped it down, you can hide behind it. If they shoot it while it's deploying, it does take a little bit of damage, and it'll just break immediately. But once it's fully deployed, it'll take a lot more damage to actually break. And she can put down 5 of them, so you can use these to cut off doorways to prevent doors from being opened. You can use them to build a little bunker, kind of like a little mini version of Newcastle's ultimate, or you can even use them in tandem with Newcastle's ultimate to give you more physical cover and amped outgoing shots. Enemies can also use, if they're on the back side of your shield, can also use your shields to also produce amped outgoing shots. So if you ever put these down and you're pushed from position, make sure that on console, you it's down the D-pad, that you can, destroy them quickly. You push down the D-pad and it destroys them. So make sure you do that when having to fall back to a position that the shields themselves may be overlooking. That way you don't help the enemy or give them cover to actually, hinder you more than help you. So make sure you put them, in my opinion, strategically and allow them to help you the best. And if you have to move from position, just destroy them real quickly. Like I said, they can be used to block doorways. You can use them in tandem with other abilities or other characters' ultimates. I think they are very versatile and one of the best tacticals for the controller class, just for cover and damage output, and their versatility of putting them anywhere. Her ultimate, which is highly underutilized in just regular battles, is called her mobile minigun, Sheila. She wields this giant minigun in her hand, and I think it has 300 or so, or 275 shots. I believe it's 300. Has a very fast fire rate, and when it does ramp up and begin firing, its spread gets tighter and tighter and becomes more accurate. You can even add or you can even flip up a little, red dot circle so you can see a little bit more clearly and get a little more, use at range. But once it runs out of ammo, you can just place it down and it'll begin recharging another one. Once it's placed down, however, you or anyone, even enemies, can use it and reload it infinitely. It is very useful, and she can place down 3 of these. So if you're running a trio, given enough time, you can place down 3 of these, making it absolutely devastating looking down a hallway or one direction, because it can just be reloaded repeatedly by uh, Rampart herself. It is a very good tactical, or not ultimate, my bad. It does 14 damage a shot, has an extremely high fire rate, and extremely big, large magazine. It is where I think other ultimates should be, where it is a game changer in those situations, because it can be way easier to switch to your ultimate and then begin firing than it can be to reload or switch to another weapon that may not have any ammo or may not have the close to medium range effectiveness that you need in that situation. It is a phenomenal ultimate, in my opinion. It is highly underutilized in just regular battles of just whip it out, brrr, problem solved. Also has great suppressing characteristic, where if you just continuously burp it at something, you can really pin someone down, especially at longer ranges where you might not be hitting all the shots, but if you're behind cover or behind your amped wall, you'll be doing enough to discourage them from looking from that angle, which can allow your teammates to push up, because if you are working together as a team, you keep putting fire on one angle. If they do peek it, they might take a little bit from you, maybe not the full, burst, but your teammates can also hit them, really making a difference and providing real good cover fire for you and your teammates in those situations where you deploy it and you need to move where you can see. Lastly, we have Catalyst. Catalyst passive is called Barricade. She can hold on PlayStation triangle to reinforce doors, strengthening them and locking them to enemies, but you and your allies can still open them. You can even put them in spaces of doors where doors have been destroyed. You can no longer open these areas, but you can block it off. She can do this to a max of 2 doors. Now, I do think comparative to the other, controllers, I feel like this is very weak. I think it should be bumped up to 3 doors max, in my opinion, because, for example, Wattson, if she uses 2 nodes per door, she can block off 5 doors of entry. Caustic can block off 6 with his gas traps putting behind doors, and then Rampart can also block off 5 if she puts her shields behind the doors, really slowing down enemies. And these doors aren't just, impenetrable, it's just she blocks it off and gives it more health, so it's going to take more kicks or grenades or bullets from our Rampart to destroy it. Really quick, Rampart's ultimate can also be used to destroy doors, which is phenomenal when somebody body blocks a door to try to heal. While playing as Rampart, you can just pull out your minigun Sheila and just hose down the door, and it will be destroyed, I think, 3 or 4 bullets, which is really quickly for a minigun, and you can hose down the person already injured trying to heal. Great way to surprise them. But back to Catalyst, I really do wish she could barricade 1 more door. Or her tactical, which is piercing spikes. She throws down a patch of ferrofluid, which turns into spikes, then enemies near it. Whenever the enemies step on it, they're slowed and it damages them. But Catalyst herself and her allies are immune to the spikes. She's also immune to enemy spikes, but it slows them down, does 15 damage a tick, and even at the shortest point from entrance to exit, you're still going to take about 30 damage worth of this. I do wish, however, either she can throw down 1 more or reinforce 1 more door, because reasonably speaking, she can really only cut off 5 ways of entry. Though these spikes can be destroyed only by destroying this little orb that pops up when enemies are near it, and they do allow you to actually hear where enemies are, because when enemies are near it, they begin making noise and acting up. So you can use that to tell you where enemies are coming from, which is very useful. And the orb that is required to destroy it does take a good amount of damage before it's actually destroyed. And while they're doing that, you can use that opportunity to push them, because they're going to use a lot of ammo to destroy them, unless they have very high damage outputting guns like a Sentinel or a 30-30, or even just using a grenade on it. But I do wish she would get either 1 more use of her tactical or 1 more use of her passive barricade, just so she's at least, at that place where, she can block off more things, because I feel like she's just lacking in that. I would prefer the passive barricade over a tactical, But it is what it is, and the piercing spikes are extremely useful. They can also go through walls. So if you're at an area where there's like say a window and a wall and you can see where enemies are, you can place it on the outside, and part of it will go through the wall to the inside, and they can't destroy it from the inside without going to the outside, getting close enough to it for the orb to pop up, and then shooting the orb. It can be used that way, and that can be very strong, or putting it in its place, behind a door at an angle, where when they open the door to come out, the door is covering where the orb is, so they have to just step on it. There is a lot you could do with it, yes, but I do feel like she's just lacking in the number of places she can cut off compared to the other controllers already, that we already have. Adding more piercing spikes would definitely make her a lot stronger, but I would prefer another max to her passive, cutting off 3 doors rather than just 2. But so far she has a really good kit. It's just I feel like she's just slightly lacking. Her ultimate, however, which is Dark Veil, you raise this permeable wall of ferrofluid, where enemies, when they walk through it, they're slowed and they're partially blinded for a brief time. This is very strong when enemies get really push happy. If you can catch them right before they get to you with this, it can also be used to great, because it can reach a good distance. It can also be used to great advantage when enemies start splitting up. You can use it to split off 2 enemies, or even 3 if they're in trios, and then focus you and your team with one, and they either have to walk through the wall and take a movement and blind debuff, or go all the way around the wall, or even over it if they have a legend that is capable of getting over it, like Pathfinder, or even if Valkyrie wants to use her ult to get over it. It's right now broken as of Season 16, as of this video, where if you use it and then you have a seer on your team uses ultimate with it, it's pretty much just free wall hacks, because they can't see where the ultimate's is to, like, shoot it, and you can see where they are from one side of the wall to the other, and they can't see you, and you just shoot through the wall and just hit them. That's currently not supposed to be a thing, but does actually work and is extremely powerful. I've seen it a few times, me personally playing, and it is horrible to play against, and I've so far never got anyone to actually do it with me, so I can experience it from the other side. But being shot at through a big black wall that you can't see through and you can't run through without being able to see where the ultimate is or where they're shooting you from, without having to just blindly spray into it, really does suck. Like I said, Respawn said it's not supposed to be like that, and they're working on it, but as of Season 16, as of this video, that does work, and it is extremely strong. Her Dark Veil can also be used to great effects inside buildings. Like if you need an enemy team that's pushing you really close to just stop pushing you entirely, you can use it inside a building, and it can be very strong. Because when they push it, they're slowed greatly, and they have a blind effect on them. It's not complete blindness, but it's like real tight tunnel vision, giving you and your team the extra advantage to either prevent them or really make them regret their decisions. Like, her ultimate is definitely solid. It can also be used to great avail for you to rotate, because once again, like I said, either they're going to push through it and get really punished, or they're going to have to go all the way around it or over it if they have the capabilities. I think it's a very unique and solid ultimate. I do wish, however, either it reduced the damage of incoming bullets, because there are some legends, like I said, with Seer, or even Crypto or Bloodhound, who when they spot you, they'll shoot you through it. I do wish, however, if it was your wall, it would reduce incoming damage from enemy bullets. But that's my only gripe with it. It is a very useful ability, especially indoors. I don't see it being used indoors nearly as much, but it is very useful. Her piercing spikes, like I said, they can clip through walls, which is very useful in specific situations, putting them behind doors where when the door opens, they still can't shoot the orb. And her passive barricade, I do wish it had one more use, but other than that, she is a great overall controller legend. I do wish, however, that the controller class had one more class passive other than just accessing the ring consoles. One that I would suggest is maybe give the controllers a bonus to recoil reduction or reload speed while crouched. I do wish, they would add something to the other classes as a secondary class passive similar to the assault class and the recon class, or not recon, support class. How they have two. I wish all the classes had two class passives. I really think that would really make the classes very more distinct if certain characters or certain legends had specific bonuses just for the small group rather than just accessing the ring console, which is very useful in and of itself, knowing where you need to be and where to set up for ambushes, or even where other players may already be waiting for ambushes, and knowing where your rotations will be in the future. It can be very useful, especially if you need to know, hey, we're going to be out in this open area, I might need some long range in the end game, rather than a shotgun or SMG. Or if it ends in an area where there's a lot of buildings or multiple levels, hey, I'm gonna need, some close range, a shotgun or an SMG or assault rifle. It can really help you think tactically. But I do wish the controller class would get a secondary class passive. Same, in my opinion, with the skirmisher class, because skirmisher class is a horrible class passive. It's not very useful, but I do wish all the classes would have at least two class passives and to round them out. But that's all my opinions on the controller class. Thank you for watching.